Hello, and this is an analysis of Honey Mustard Mayonnaise, which is rumored to be the opening track from rapper Kendrick Lamar's upcoming album, which will be titled Condiments Unlimited. Credible rumors have it that each track will explore a different socio-political issue through the lens of a condiment. Um, we may see a mayonnaise track, perhaps a Dijon mustard track, maybe a relish track. It's hard to say. I'm looking forward to it. My name is Benjamin. I've been a scholar of Mr. Duckworth, or Kendrick, as most people call him, for many years since Good Kid, Mad City. That was what really the bug that bit me and got me into this field. Anyway, this song, Honey Mustard Mayonnaise, deals with themes of repressed homosexuality, of internalized homophobia, and how we define masculinity in the current day, particularly with respect to someone who presents themselves very masculine like Kendrick Lamar. Obviously, that's some pretty heavy and prescient stuff. So the song follows the narrative of a speaker who is struggling with his own homosexual urges. These urges contradict how he sees himself and how he wants other people to see him. Now, it's difficult to tell if this is meant to be Kendrick Lamar himself or simply a fictional protagonist representing this, pressing real-world issue. Perhaps, for all we know, he is exploring something true to himself, feelings that he has experienced through the guy's alter ego, because this is not something he's ready to present to the world. We might be able to figure this out once the album comes out. It's hard to say at the moment. We have scholars working on that currently. So the beginning is very interesting. It's this atmospheric opening that builds and builds until it cuts out. Kendrick is introduced, mimicking the atmospheric rhythm with a ba-ba-ba, noise. And this, is very powerful. It introduces Kendrick as sort of the sole driving force of the song. He cuts out the ambience. He cuts the fat off the beef and says, "This is me." And it also does well to establish the contradictory nature of the song, because the ba-ba-ba is delivered seriously as part of the serious tone. However, when you consider it, it's obviously pretty unserious. He's saying ba-ba-ba-ba. It's a possible allusion to Minions, which is, obviously children's media. Children and 50-year-old mothers on Facebook, but not targeted at Kendrick's usual demographic. And this doesn't deal directly with the themes of the song, but it does establish the motif of juxtaposition, which we will see frequently. This is further emphasized by the shift from the blaring ambience, one of the sonically loudest points in the song, to the quiet intimacy of just Lamar's voice. Now, some dichotomies that are explored in the song are between the serious and unserious right here, the masculine and the feminine, the street and the home, and also between sexuality and chasteness. And so moving on to the actual lyrics, we begin, I eat my mustard with my mayonnaise, honey mustard mayo on this shit that I'm about to glaze. Now this first line is a brilliantly dense opening to the song, and also just to the album as well, since this is supposedly the opening track. Now mustard and mayonnaise obviously establishes the motif of the album, that being using condiments as a metaphor, and by putting it directly at the beginning as the literal first lyric, Kendrick is really showing up and saying, hey, this is what this is about, this is what you should expect, this is what you are going to get, and it's a very authoritative way to introduce that motif. Now, Mustard is also self-referential. One of Kendrick's biggest songs as of late, TV Off from the album GNX, has a big moment where the beat switches and he just screams, "Mustard!" I'm sure we've all seen it on Instagram and TikTok. It's become a sort of mimetic presence in and of itself, but him repeating that at the beginning of this album is a way of saying, hey, I'm the same Kendrick that bodied Drake, like I am Kendrick Lamar and I'm here to say type thing. It's an especially pressing part of the song, considering how the rest of the song sort of has unusual lyrics and thematic content that is unfamiliar to a lot of Kendrick fans. It differs from his usual brand, so this is an important way of saying, I am Kendrick Lamar, no matter what comes next. And now, talking about mayonnaise, mayonnaise is an interesting inclusion because mustard is sort of on brand. Mayonnaise is expanding the metaphor. It does allude to the song's fixation on semen, man mayo, as it would be. And it builds this psychosexual dimension of lyrics that permeates the song. No matter how much the speaker here seems to want to stick to a topic, these references to homosexuality seem to creep in everywhere. And everything, whether sexual or not, is connected to that theme, and we will see how this repressed homosexuality rising to the surface is a big part of the song, basically through a series of Freudian slips, is how Kendrick portrays it. And now, Honey Mustard Mayo is the title of the song, minus the nays, but that's not really a significant part of it. So clearly it's something Kendrick wants to emphasize, and I myself think it's a direct representation of semen, of male ejaculate, which once again establishes the strong and the ever-present motif of sexuality that is really driving this track. And indeed, Kendrick, by talking about glazing on the rest of the line, suggests that he is going to eat this honey mustard mayo, which, eating ejaculation is not strictly a gay activity. If you're familiar, sometimes heterosexual men will also be turned on by this phenomenon, but it is generally considered to be gay and does not align with the image of the masculine straight man. And now, when we get to the word glaze, that has a triple meaning, really, which is honestly quite genius on our man Mr. Duckworth's part. Combined with the condiment, it suggests a meal that he is going to eat. It also suggests a delicious meal, considering the slang use of glaze to mean a compliment, like I am glazing my boy's workout routine, means I'm complimenting his workout routine. I think it's really great. And so the speaker clearly has confidence in the quality of this metaphorical food, which becomes critical looking at the overall lyric. Now, the etymological origin of glaze in this context does refer to spreading semen on something, which suggests ejaculation on the part of the speaker, which combined with the imagery of eating does evoke oral sex and performing fellatio. And now, critically returning to what I said earlier, the speaker has confidence in the quality of said penis and the materials coming from it. And so by likening homosexual activities to a delicious food, he reveals the strength of the speaker's repressed urges. It really adds a layer of guilt because of the another dimension of this is it adds a layer of guilt because of the Another layer of this is it adds a layer of guilt because of the societal connotations of food, which is, it's often viewed as gluttony to indulge in a delicious meal, which is yet another dimension of this brilliant song. For all we know, Kendrick could explore that further on a different track, but right now it's part of the multi-layered metaphor of the honey mustard mayo. Now the song continues. Popeye's fries knocked me into a fucking daze. Now I'm violent, hangry, you better count your fucking days. Now, the gluttony dimension of the line is made even more explicit by talking about Popeye's fries, because Popeye's is fast food, which is seen as unhealthy and crucially unclean, which reflects the internalized homophobia of the speaker, as even like after landmark moments like the legitimization of gay marriage, a lot of the population does view homosexuality as something dirty, something unclean, which clearly this speaker does. And another dimension of using Popeye specifically as the metaphor is it represents how strong his desires are. Because have you been outside of Popeye's? They put chemicals to make it smell, to make it sensuous outside, which is tempting, and it shows how tempting those thoughts are for the speaker. Now, the image of being knocked into a daze also... The image of being knocked into a daze also suggests these contradictory emotions. because he is really confused and out of sorts, and he doesn't understand what is going on within him. And now, the euphoria of a deliciousness of a meal that is worth glazing versus the confusion of enjoying something that you think is wrong because of preconceived notions about masculinity is the primary juxtaposition that the Days is a reaction to. And in that sense, he sort of explores how the narrator, how this Kendrick explores how the speaker is really just confused and hurt by this. And the next step of this confusion is violence. In the bewildered haze of such nonsensical emotions, one may seek what makes sense, what is a base level for them, and it's clear that the speaker finds comfort in a sort of stereotypical image of violent masculinity. The pendulum swings from, I'm gonna suck the penis to, I'm gonna kill a man. However, the use of hangry instead of something like angry adds another contradiction, as even in his masculine rage, the speaker yearns for the pleasure of food, which is likened to gay sex. And obviously the fucking Days D-A-Z-E versus D-A-Y-S, which makes a completely perfect rhyme since they are orally the same word, while changing the meaning is a bit of fun wordplay, Kendrick showing his lyrical chops, if you will. Now the next section, the chorus, is fascinating because honey mustard mayonnaise is sung over and over again in this haunting harmony, and the condiment obviously represents semen in the song, so it suggests the pervasiveness of these urges that the speaker is feeling, and also how he views them as something that is scary, something that is dragging him down. And this combined with the sort of underscoring of the pulsating chant of mustard, which I think is just a bit of crowd-pleasing. Kendrick Lamar fans, we love our mustard. It emphasizes the theme that is captured by this chorus. And then Kendrick comes in with Count Your Fucking Days, which is from the first verse, but the repetition of that specific lyric suggests a buildup of anger and panic, as he is not able to understand these thoughts. And he has difficulty resolving this dissonance in his mind. And now the ad-lib about Popeye's chicken may seem throwaway, but there are still, it's really one of the most succinct encapsulations of the song's themes, because shouting at Popeye's chickens, combined with the metaphor of food representing gay sex, suggests an intrusive thought about homosexuality. And because he's doing it in a faux masculine voice, he's trying to cover up this true meaning. And the inclusion of the word, bitch, is might just be seen as a rap trope, but really it captures this dissonance as well, because its misogynistic associations make it seem more masculine. However, it's also tied to the queer community. A lot of gay men use that word, which captures the duality of the speaker's mind. Now, he says, next, they call me the sandwich in the street, so I mean it both ways when I say eat my meat. Sorry, a second, let me just, okay. Thank you for bearing with me. Now, this is an allusion to a popular mimetic image of current President Donald Trump, which says, N-words call me the sandwich. It obviously says the word, but I don't think that would be proper of me. And now Trump falls on the right side of the political spectrum, which is in the stereotypical culture war against homosexuality, which, so the speaker identifying himself with a sort of Trumpian figure once again shows his posturing as a hyper-masculine man, an attempt to sort of degrade and disregard the gay urges that he has expressed. However, this allusion also connects to the prevalence of homophobic politicians who turn out to have double lives, turned out to be sexually active and engaged with men. And Trump himself, I believe there's a popular clip of him saying, look at that handsome dude, he's so handsome. I recall him saying once, I'll kiss everyone, man, woman, I'll kiss you all. So clearly there's something there, if you know what I'm saying. So it's sort of alluding to that duality once again. And the punchline of this meme, which is often lost, cropped out as part of the joke, is about the bread coming first, which refers to money. And it shows that the speaker also likely aligns with a capitalistic worldview. With the binary nature of the culture war, this often falls right of center, so it's another example of him wanting to be perceived as on that side of the aisle. But the contradictions are represented by this false duality of the political binary, like this separate affiliation about money truly means nothing about sexuality. Maybe that's the political binary is something that Kendrick could explore on another track. We'll wait and see. Now, the mention of the street also emphasizes masculinity, which further explores how the speaker wants people to see him, because it's associated with a sort of hyper-masculine and independent, self-made man, and that sort of culture and mythos, and it runs counter to the feminine traits that are often associated with homosexuality. Now, eat my meat. Really, one of my favorite lines has many meanings in this context. The speaker alludes to a duality when he says both ways, which is just another example of juxtaposition cleverly thrown in there. Of course, it's a reference to oral sex receiving fellatio, and although it's presented in the context of masculinity, the speaker's fixation on homosexual activity invokes sucking penis and recontextualizes it. It shows his repressed urges. And now the other meaning is very interesting because the meat of a sandwich gives you nutrition, it gives you protein, which makes you stronger. And this implies that because this meaning of it is sort of buried under the sexual meaning, that the speaker's true nature is nurturing. He is sort of meant to help others who are in an environment such as the street, which is prone to hardship and strife. However, this aspect of him is buried behind the masculine bravado. Now, the next line is unusual, but it slots very neatly into the tapestry of the song when it's examined. It's beat my meat, then make bread from wheat, then spread my special sauce on it. That shit's sweet. Now, beat my meat is strange on the surface. A usual brag in a song such as this would be about having sex and not about masturbating. But the use of the latter in this song suggests loneliness and a yearning rather than dominant sexuality, which the syntax and delivery of the line is more trying to imply. And this explores how the speaker feels unfulfilled because he is not able to connect with the urges that he feels he should have. And he is too scared to explore the ones that he actually does have. Now, the use of bread is another allusion to money and the deconstruction of identity politics, and the inclusion of from wheat, which is from scratch, represents a self-made man mythos. And it's interesting how this song dips its toes into this sort of field. As I mentioned earlier, it's likely something that will be explored more on the full album, but it's a brilliant choice by Mr. Duckworth to introduce them so quickly. It's sort of priming you for what will happen next. However, this time, the bread is explicitly combined with special sauce, which is a euphemism for the speaker's own ejaculate, which, this is an allusion to the game Soggy Biscuit, a game where several men will masturbate onto a biscuit, and the last to finish will be forced to eat it. And this, once again, mingles the idea of gay sex with the imagery of food, and the speaker's hunger for these forbidden forms of sensuality. And now the speaker describes the food as sweet, which highlights how much he desires these pleasures. However, it is becoming clear that he can only speak of them through complex metaphor, as he does not want to recognize them as something true to himself. Now, the second chorus is mostly the same as the first, with one key difference. The ad-lib is switched around. And it's really interesting how this plays out, because the speaker inhales as if to say something, but then clearly unable to decide, he lets out a bewildered scream. It's almost inhuman. It really portrays a raw, emotional kind of pain, and the what the fuck after emphasizes the pure confusion of that moment. Now, it shows that he is just so befuddled by the contradictory thoughts on sexuality that he cannot think of something to say. He is physically incapable of coming up with a coherent thought off the dome. He is only able to repeat what he has said in the last chorus. Ugh. Now I want to focus on the next section a bit, the sort of expansion and reimagining of the chorus, which is fascinating. It really opens up the song into a wider, more sort of soaring, majestic version. It feels like the angels took up Kendrick's instruments and were like, "We'll do it for you." Now, critically, the harmony of honey, mustard, mayonnaise has been rearranged to be more consonant and almost triumphant. It doesn't have that leering dissonance of the first chorus. And now it shows how the appeal of homosexuality is growing in the speaker's mind. It's overwhelming the psychological defenses that the speaker has erected in hope of repressing his true self. And this is emphasized by the removal of the sinister mustard chant, which helped to create that sort of unpleasant atmosphere. And it shows an eruption from panic into like a somewhat confused form of queer joy, which is really interesting. And the ad-lib matches this rejuvenated state of mind. It's honestly, I think, more of a crowd pleaser meant to tease the other themes of this album, where he says, "I am dissatisfied with the economic state of the world, bitch." And there's that word again, bitch, this time said clearly in a way that is sort of adjacent to the way that a gay man might say it. But I think that line is sort of meant to tease the other themes of this album, because there's not that much about sort of economic matters on this track specifically, and I think that's something that Kendrick wants to dive into, considering the state of the world. And it's sort of letting his audience know that although this song is more personal, there will be more explicit political commentary later in the LP. But the fun thing about it is it's really an empowered moment. It shows this moment of joy in a song that is otherwise full of conflict. And now following this chorus, which sort of gradually builds to a beat switch, which has this blaring static that fades in, which shows confusion. The beat switch really captures how the speaker moves to be on the defensive. He is suddenly like, wait, I cannot embrace this side of myself. I need to fight. So having become more aware of his homosexual urges, he seeks to explain these contradictory emotions through a series of dense metaphors. Now, sliding all over he starts sliding all over my throat, mustard and lime coke. Now, sliding is obviously an allusion to swallowing semen, particularly combined with the depiction of mustard, which is part of honey mustard mayonnaise, which is meant to represent male ejaculate. And lime coke is a really interesting thing that seems to come out of nowhere, but it's really interesting. Now, a popular image in online queer spaces is that of the lime lips. You might have seen it. It's sort of a pair of lips, like, hey, he, sort of biting onto a lime. And now that's not something I'm overly familiar with. I don't know why that specifically makes the rounds in that community, but it does. And so the use of lime coke specifically takes sort of an innocuous drink like coke and turns it into yet another sign of the speaker's repressed sexuality. And also, this is a little separate from the theme of the song, but the cadence of sliding all over my throat could very well be a reference to the song Big Body Brothers. You might have seen videos of I'm running all over the place, blue in the face, looking like Sonic. It has a very similar sliding all over my throat, running all over the place. And that song was recently in Mimetic Cycles for that line. And if you were around, you may have seen comments that likened it to Kendrick Lamar's recent music and said something like, if Kendrick released this, you all would love it, rather than making fun of it, which is what the internet did. And now by utilizing this same flow, but putting such deep and symbolic meaning behind it, Lamar proves these people wrong in really bombastic fashion. And in addition, the song's title, Big Body Brothers, this is a little bit of a reach on my part. I think the only one. The rest of this is really, really packed into the song in the text. But this is me going out on a limb. The title Big Body Brothers, frankly, sounds very gay, which ties back into the song's themes of the song Honey Mustard Mayonnaise. And then he continues performative carrying a tote, come for a ride in my 24. Sometimes I really wish he could do it like he does, but that's why this is my field and not the music itself. He says, performative carrying a tote, come for a ride in my 24-karat gold laboon boat. And now this reference to performativity attempts to backtrack from the admission of the speaker's true feelings and suggest a really strong heterosexuality, because of course performative men take on sort of feminine traits in order to seek women and to try and make them feel more comfortable, so that they can, depending on the performative man, be in a relationship with them or take advantage of them. However, because of the nature of performativity, many aspects of it, such as totes, which is the one that's explicitly name-dropped, are associated with gay male culture as much as or more than straight male culture. That's why they're often associated with performativity, as women feel more comfortable around gay men, because they are not, sexually threatened by them. And now 24-karat gold labubu is a reference to a popular mimetic video that's a woman saying, I have the only 24-karat gold 24-karat gold labubu. It's really a delightful little clip. Give it a look up if you haven't seen it before. But it's another instance of the same metaphor. Labubus are often used by performative men, and the specificity of the reference implies a deeper understanding of this topic, which shows that the speaker's knowledge of queer culture is not performative, but it's actually deeply personal to him. And I think the metaphor of gold was also interesting, because she says she has a 24-karat gold labubu, but do we really believe that? Even if it is 24-karat gold, it's probably only gold-plated, so it shows that there's attempt to appear heterosexual is really just skin deep. It is very surface level. And now it's interesting that he brings up a boat, because it references sailing, which is an activity that has been historically dominated by men, and the idea of men on a boat together who are deprived of female companionship evokes stories of homosexual activities and queer sexual discovery. And so the dichotomy of a masculine activity and its gay connotations sort of represents the surprise of a speaker discovering his sexuality. And the next line is, moonbeam gooning in my blue jeans, digging in my butt while I'm watching Hereditary. And Moonbeam is a reference to Benson Boone's Mystical Magical, which is another song that is sort of associated with performativity. So it's a similar use to the other instances of that. But the use of gooning is similar to masturbation earlier in the song, and it reveals the speaker's loneliness while fitting cleverly into the reference to mystical magical. And now digging in my butt is a more explicit reference to homosexuality, which it's connected to modern meme culture in a similar way to the lines that surround it, but it alludes strongly to anal fingering in the context of this song, which as a man would be in most cases associated with homosexuality. Once again, I'm not saying that you can't like it up the butt and be straight, but just in culture. I'm sorry, I lost my place in my notes. Give me 1 second. Okay. And the Hereditary reference is a little strange, even to a scholar such as myself. I believe it could be a reference to the themes of family trauma, which are in that film, which is often closely tied with the experiences of closeted queer people. Now, it's been theorized that it's might be a line to entertain some close friends of Kendrick who are just fans of Hereditary, maybe at a watch party at some point on Discord or something. But our research team has yet to confirm that, but we're working on it around the clock, really. And then he says, call me the 15th and 7th letters of the alphabet way, I'm the OG. Which OG is original gangster. It's an attempt to backtrack. It's a clever wordplay that is meant to capture the speaker's status as a masculine gangster. However, further emphasizing this is 157 is a balanced prime number, which seems to support the strength of this reaction and emphasize the speaker's heterosexuality. However, if you take, because it's 15th at 7, so hence 157, sorry I didn't explain that, 157 is also the title of a song by Tom Rosenthal, which was released as an April Fool's joke and whose lyrics consist simply of the numbers 1 through 157. And through this framing, it's really quite genius. The speaker's retraction is ultimately revealed to be false, as false as an April Fool's prank. And now another indication that this line is false is the ad-lib, which comes concurrently with the line. It's simply, "This is an ad-lib." And that ad-lib is really meaningless and hollow, which suggests the line it accompanies is also meaningless and hollow. Now it begins the next line. "Brokeback had a romance with Wojak, but I'm ready to bounce back." Now, Brokeback is an allusion to the movie Brokeback Mountain, a very popular, very well-regarded drama from the 2000s. And if you're familiar with it, its associations with the song are obvious. Both of them have themes of homosexuality and feature characters who are defined by their refusal to accept these queer traits as part of themselves. And now, saying he had a romance with Wojak is both a comedic line referencing the popular online mimetic character and a continuation of the Brokeback Mountain illusion, because Wojak can also be read as Woe Jack, as in Jack who is woe, Jack who is sad, which is a clear reference to Jack Twist from the film. And this places the speaker in the role of Ennis Del Mar, who had a romance with Jack Twist, Woe Jack, within this allegory. And Ennis is a gay man who is unwilling to accept his romantic and sexual attraction to another man, and this ultimately sort of defines his life as portrayed in the film. But ready to bounce back suggests that the speaker is about to accept his true self, similar to how Ennis gains a sense of peace after the tragic events of the film. And then the line continues, "Crazy style like I'm a freaky bottom getting fucked at an Outback." And now crazy style is a reference to bouncing on it crazy style, bounce back, bounce on it. It's a fun double meaning. But the freaky bottom line is the most explicit declaration of the speaker's homosexual urges so far. He's not just a bottom, but he's a freaky bottom, He's really willing to do some out there sexual things, such as this line suggests exhibitionism, having sex in a public place. An Outback is both this archetypical public place, which implies that the speaker is not only freaky but willing to appear openly gay, and it's an allusion to nature, which sort of continues the Brokeback Mountain connection, although not in a super strong, overt way. And the accompanying ad-lib, however, is an overt reference to Brokeback Mountain. He says, "Jack Nasty." And at one point in the movie, Ennis's wife calls Jack Twist Jack Nasty when she is sort of grilling him about his sexual escapades. And this is specifically in the movie a moment of unveiling the truth, which suggests that this line about freaky bottom unveils the speaker's true intentions. And on crack seems to be a quick retraction, as the speaker implies that he's not in his right state of mind. It sees that the eager explicitness of the last line was sort of a step too far for his fragile state of mind, even though everything around it suggests it to be true. But then he talks about ballsack. He says, "And I'm on crack and my ballsack's about to get whacked, but not in a gay way. Mustard, honey, mayonnaise." Sorry, I don't think I established that. That is the line that I am analyzing. Ballsack seems to be a return to a tone that, although not explicitly gay in the text, has homosexual undertones. Getting one's balls whacked aligns with the image of a gay bottom, which is implied in the previous lines. Now, "Not in a Gay Way" is the last final pulling back, the last retraction of the song, where the speaker sort of pulls back into himself and says, "Nope, I'm crazy style. I'm not gay. Not in a gay way." And so this line coming from crazy style to not in a gay way represents a kind of cycle, like a continuous oscillation between accepting homosexuality and retreating away from it. Getting fucked in an outback and I'm on crack and my ball sack's about to get whacked. Oh, but not in a gay way. But I'm getting fucked in an outback. It's kind of an Ouroboros, the snake eating its own tail. The snake is closeted homosexual. Now the final line, mustard, honey, mayonnaise, is a brilliant way to end, and it's a brilliant way to end the song because the image is a metaphor for semen. It contradicts the previous line, demonstrating that the speaker still has these thoughts. And in addition, the reversal of mustard and honey to better fit the cadence of the song represents how the speaker's views have been changed. I really love this bit. Now, although the speaker cannot directly accept his homosexuality, his view on it has changed. Those two words have flipped around. His perspective has flipped around. It has not simply returned to the status quo established earlier, and not only that, it fits the rhythm of the song better. He has realized that he needs to change, but he is unable to do so, and the song ends on this uncertainty. So anyway, that's a quick overview of the song. I'm sure there's more to dive into if you're really into it, but this is, I think, a good jumping off point to get you thinking about this and get you excited for the next album. I'm really eager to hear how Kendrick follows this one up. I'm curious how long the album will be, what the themes will be, what some of the best bangers and hooks will be, if we'll have any mustard moments. But anyway, let me know what you're most excited